All right, I guess we can get this thing started. 2020 was a bad year. But for me, it was a pretty enlightening year for international baseball. I was able to watch Taiwanese baseball through Twitter, I was able to watch Korean baseball through Twitch, and I was hoping I would be able to watch more Japanese baseball than I have in previous years. But that didn't happen. There was no new access to NPB from the previous years, and that sucked. I'd like to believe that I am a Swallows fan, but I honestly haven't watched a full Swallows game ever. And this is because it's really difficult to watch NPB games outside of Japan. And so last year I focused a lot of my non-MLB attention on the KBO. But with both Taiwanese baseball and Korean baseball restricting their access this year, I thought it might give me the opportunity to watch more Japanese baseball. So for my birthday, I gifted myself access to NPB games. Well, just a little over half of them. We'll get into that. So in order to talk about Pacific League TV, we need to talk about the Pacific League. And in order to talk about the Pacific League, we need to talk about NPB as a whole. NPB is made up of two distinct leagues, much like Major League Baseball was before the year 2000. You have the Central League, which is most easily compared to the National League in the United States, and you have the Pacific League, which is most easily compared to the American League. The Central League is the more popular of the two leagues because it contains the league's two cornerstone franchises in the Yomiuri Giants and the Hanshin Tigers. The Central League is also considered the more traditional of the two leagues, with pitchers batting and everyone's distaste for the current playoff format. The Pacific League is just as old as the Central League. They were both established in 1950, but it's considered the less popular of the two leagues. But it's also considered the more progressive because it utilizes a designated hitter and loves the current playoff structure. The Pacific League is also recently dominant. It claims 10 out of the last 11 Japan Series winners, including the four-time defending champion SoftBank Hawks. Unlike the American League and the National League today in MLB, which is essentially run under the same organization, the Central League and the Pacific League run independently of each other with separate offices, separate rules, and separate ethos. The Central League has a very decentralized power structure, mostly because the Giants and the Tigers want to control the way they distribute their own stuff. And the rest of the league just follows suit because whatever the Giants and the Tigers say kinda goes. The Pacific League, ironically, has a more centralized power structure, including for our purposes, the digital distribution of out-of-market games and content. Basically, if you weren't aware, the Pacific League offers an a la carte streaming service, much like MLB.TV, that shows every single Pacific League, Major League, and Farm game. So if you are a fan of any of the 6 Pacific League teams, congratulations. If, however, you are a fan of any of the 6 Central League teams, like I am, sorry, you're out of luck. Watching games outside of Japan involving Central League teams is very difficult, and if you have any hints, please hit me up. And for the longest time, I didn't purchase Pacific League TV because the content that they offered didn't involve my team. When I'm on MLB.TV, I very, very rarely watch games that don't involve the New York Mets. But I figured this year, why not? I'm working from home now. I might as well buy some Pacific League TV and review it on this channel. So I'm not going to get into too many details on how to purchase Pacific League TV. I will link a video below that I found very helpful and also some tips that I found along the way, because it's not the easiest process. One thing I will highly recommend doing is using Chrome's auto translate feature. It's something that I still use because it's very seamless translating all of the Japanese text into English. After getting past the first page, you're going to get a confirmation email where you will enter your credit card information and you're done. You can choose a full season service, which will cost you $15 a month. You can choose a single month service that will also cost you about $15 a month. Or you can choose single games if you really wish to do that. So what exactly do you get? Pacific League TV offers every single game live and archived dating back to 2012 that includes Pacific League teams, with a few exceptions, and we'll get into that. It also offers every farm game involving a Pacific League team. So in total, you'll get about 6 games a day max, 3 from the major leagues and 3 from the minor leagues. You can watch games live, and if you choose to watch archived games, they get archived about 12 hours after first pitch. For me, living on the Pacific Coast, that's fine. I'm usually not awake for the live games anyway, and by the time I want to get started watching these games anyway, they're already up. One thing as an American user that most of you will notice is that the UI is very rudimentary, and there's some good and bad in that. For one, it just works. I've had no buffering issues whatsoever using this service, and I get them decently consistently with MLB.tv. It's also very easy to find games that I'm searching for, whether I'm looking for games from the previous night or from games from years previous. It's also very clear where the controls are, and they're very easy to operate. But with that said, there is not a lot of functionality. You can pause and play the video, volume up, volume down, change the playback speed if that's something that you want to do, though I don't know why you would. But there's no option to change the broadcast like there is for MLB.tv, maybe because each game will only have one broadcast. There's no live box score beyond the inning by inning scoreboard. And there's no running list of plays. You kind of just get a video file and no logged record of what happened. Like in MLB.tv, you have the ability to hide scores across all games if you wish, but the way the video is delivered sometimes presents a little bit of a spoiler. So the videos that you get for Pacific League TV are not full files of entire games, but at least 18 half-inning videos. It can sometimes feel like a full video because each video will autoplay after the previous one finishes. But unless you're in full screen mode, when that video autoplays, you also get the timestamp for the duration of the video. If it's a short video, you can suppose a quick scoreless inning. And if it's a long video, you can probably presume that there's some more scoring. It's not directly a spoiler, but it does provide some context as to what could happen in the next inning. But that's honestly just a very, very small pedantic complaint that I have with the nature of the videos. What's really, really cool about this service is that it has archived every game dating back to 2012, which was the first year that this service was introduced. The UI looks like it hasn't changed since 2012, but part of that means that these videos are actually really, really easy to find. If you head over to the archives column, you can find a year and a month drop-down menu. Select those and you have access to everything. If you want to watch old fighters games with a young Shohei Ohtani, you can do that. If you want to watch Kikuchi dominate some lineups, you can do that. If you want to watch any team but the SoftBank Hawks be the best team in the league, you'll only have like 3 seasons to choose from, but you can do that. And the best part about this is that old archived games do not come with unskippable ads like they do with MLB.tv. Even the live games don't come with ads either, although there are sometimes ads laced into the broadcast itself that will come through in the video. I actually like a lot of the Japanese ads because they're kind of fun and novel for me, so I rarely skip them. But for the most part, you can skip the last minute of every video file to get rid of the dead time. A few more good things about Pacific League TV before we get into the bad. One of them is that it offers interleague play. This service offers every interleague game that takes place inside of a Pacific League ballpark. And ironically, any interleague game that also takes place inside of Tokyo Dome or Koshien, where the Giants and the Tigers play. Yes, the 2 teams that are most restrictive about their content are the 2 Central League teams that allow Pacific League TV to show their stuff. Which means that I have access to Swallows games. It's only 9 of the 18 interleague games, but it's not nothing. Unfortunately, those games are not at Jingu Stadium, which is highly disappointing. But even when I don't watch the Swallows, Japanese baseball is fun. If anything, it makes for good background noise. I actually often keep it on at work right before the Mets game starts, just so I can have like the sights and sounds of the game before I watch the game I actually want to watch. But the service does have a few fatal flaws. This might sound very American and kind of a stupid complaint, but the thing I like least about Pacific League TV is that I don't speak Japanese. And I know that's not a Pacific League TV problem. I know that's a me problem. But me not being able to understand the language significantly lessens my enjoyment of the broadcast, since a lot of the enjoyment I get from watching baseball games comes from the commentary. Another big problem about Pacific League TV is that I don't really care about Pacific League teams. I care about the Swallows. I want to watch the Giants. I want to watch the Tigers. All of them are in the Central League. I would much rather watch Central League games. Also, very strange is that all of these games are in standard definition. I don't know whether NPB broadcasts just don't do high definition, or if this service just gives standard definition as the default definition for all of these games. But it's kind of weird, especially since high definition is such a ubiquitous thing across American sports broadcasting in general. Another thing that's kind of bad, this service costs $15 a month, which in the grand scheme of things is not a big deal for all of the content that it delivers. But it's also more expensive than MLB.TV, which offers far more games at a much better quality. Again, it's a pedantic complaint. This is a luxury product. $15 a month for 3 to 6 games a day is really not that expensive. But I only have one product to compare this to, and it's not nearly as good as MLB.TV. So, final verdict. I was initially very excited to use Pacific League TV, and about a month and a half into it, I don't use it very much at all. I would say if you're a fan of the Hawks, Eagles, Lions, Marines, Buffaloes, or Fighters and want to follow their games, then yeah, $15 a month, go ahead and purchase it. But if you're a fan of other teams or just trying to get into Japanese baseball, I would recommend checking out the very robust Pacific League TV YouTube channel first. They even have an English language YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, which doesn't have very much commentary in English, but is at least presented in English. Basically, Pacific League TV is something that you already know if you're going to want it. But please, I am begging the Central League to get it together, because I would happily pay $15 a month just for Swallows games. I understand there isn't much of a market for Japanese baseball in the United States, but Pacific League TV already exists, and I can't imagine it costs them that much money to distribute the service outside of Japan. But for now, I'm going to take the 9 interleague games that I get per season and just be happy with it.